Hey everyone, Connie here with a kind of impromptu video I just decided I wanted to make. Um, because of various things I've been hearing through reactions and stuff in regard to RWBY, as well as comments and all on the channel and elsewhere online. I'm going to try to keep this brief, but I do want to mention because we're not going to have RWBY again until February, and I will probably forget it if I don't mention it now, if I don't bring it up now, it'll probably like skip my mind when we get back to things. Um, so I wanted to touch on the Hound. In Volume 8 so far, we've had the Hound being this big force, this big Grim working for Salem, this like giant dog that can shapeshift, speak, and critically think. And it's the first time we've seen anything like this with the Grimm. We've seen other Grimm who were very frightening, but none of them could speak, none of them could critically think, and none of them could really shapeshift in the same way that the Hound does. The only thing close is like there's the one sea monster Grimm that could like sprout wings at one point, but not quite the same because the wings were just kind of folded into its back and all of that. Um, but I wanted to talk about this because there's this theory that I've heard in multiple reactions, especially from Murder of Birds, as well as I've seen all over like Twitter and Facebook, and even in the comments here now. And I want to talk about it. So this is kind of like a little supplementary video for RWBY Volume 8 during the hiatus. So there is this theory going around that the Hound is a person. That the Hound was a Grimm that was originally a person who was turned into a Grimm by Salem. And I believe, although I don't think I've heard anyone actually specifically say so, but I believe it stems from the line that Salem referred to the Grimm as an experiment. And the fact that it can speak. It's like those two things together, I think, is what caused this theory to come into play. My problem with this, and I'll just say right off the bat, I hate this theory, is that one, there's no real evidence to support this. Like, the fact that it can talk isn't actually evidence to support this theory, like, pretty much at all. It's circumstantial at best. Well, circumstantial is the wrong word, but you know what I mean. The fact that it could talk is not proof of this kind of theory, like, to any degree. And the fact that she called it an experiment, the fact that it's much different and more intelligent than other Grimm, that also just does not prove anything. That could, in essence, just prove how strong Salem is, that she can create something like this. And the fact that she hasn't up until now kind of shows that maybe she hasn't needed to, or even just desired to. There's no reason to believe that this implies that the Hound was once a human. And then there's the theories on who the Hound actually specifically is. And the two biggest ones I've heard are Adam and Summer. Basically going with the idea that it's a corpse, basically, that was turned into a Grimm. Like someone who was killed and turned into a Grimm. And there's really no evidence to support either of these either. Like the biggest thing I've heard people say for the Summer idea is that the idea that maybe Summer had been blinded, like in the same way Maria was because of her silver eyes, and that's why the Hound is like blinded. That's why it has no eyes. But that is such a stretch because we have no idea what happened to Summer. Like we have no idea other than it's basically practically confirmed that Salem was behind her death. That's all we know. There's nothing to back up that idea. And Adam, like outside of Adam being a faunus, like one, that's rude to even think that kind of thing, kind of racist against the faunus. Just because he's a faunus, that automatically means he's the Hound. It's like, really? But even beyond that, it's like again, there's nothing. Like I've heard different fan theories for this show and for many other shows and all, and at least some of them have something to back them up. And whether they end up being correct or not, that's not even the point. Like they have some kind of backing. For example, before it was revealed in Naruto that Toby was Obito, there was actually evidence, even though I don't think it was good enough, and I don't think that that should have been the case because it was honestly a stupid decision. There was still evidence to suggest that Toby could be Obito, and the name alone, which honestly was just way too obvious and stupid. It was really dumb. But the point is, there was evidence for that. So when it was a fan theory initially, before it was actually officially revealed, there was precedence to have that theory. There's nothing for this. There's absolutely nothing for this theory that gives it any kind of precedence. It does not hold water in the slightest. But beyond just the fact that it's completely crackpot, the fact that it's completely just a random ass theory that has no backing, why don't I specifically like it outside of that? Well, it's kind of with what I already said. Salem, the idea that she created the Hound basically on a whim and just to show that she could create something that powerful, that intelligent, that just capable of like comprehensive thoughts and speech in the way that no other Grimm has been. The fact that she could create something like that actually makes Salem as a villain more intimidating. It makes her more threatening and shows that this series could go on even longer because of that. Because right now, like as it stands, it kind of feels like this is almost the climax of the series, you know? But we know, like, they haven't even been to Vacuo yet. There's a lot we still don't know and have not seen. So we know the series isn't over and that it's probably not going to be over for a few more volumes at least. I know up to volume 10 is already confirmed. Volume 9 is already being worked on. But it's like, if they made the Hound to just be something like that, it would take away a lot of the intimidation factor from Salem and make it feel like not as interesting anymore. It would make it feel like you almost want her to be, or that she almost would be, finished off a lot quicker. Because with the way that it is, with the Hound being just something she created, it shows that she is that powerful, that she could just do this at a whim, and it's terrifying, and it leads to so many future possibilities with her character. And yeah, you could kind of say like, oh, but turning someone into a Grimm is kind of scary too. It's kind of intimidating too. And yeah, to a point, but not to the same level. And it just seems like a shortcut. It doesn't seem like something she would do either. Like, that would kind of come out of nowhere in pretty much every way. Would it not? Like, there's been no evidence that this kind of thing could even happen. Much less would. There's like no evidence that this kind of thing is even a thought. So just kind of throwing that in out of nowhere would almost make it feel like just some random bullshit stupidity rather than an intimidating, threatening ability that Salem would possess that would make her more intimidating going forward. Plus, if you did that, if it did do that, where Salem was turn someone into the Grimm, that would open it up for just more options, and honestly, more options for other people to be turned into Grimm, and that would honestly just be stupid, because they would have to do more with that. If that was ended up being the thing, the big like surprise about it all, they would have to do more. They would have to do it again. Like maybe turn, I don't know, Tyrion into an actual Death Stalker or something, some kind of super Death Stalker. That would be dumb. Also, again, kind of racist against the Faunus, honestly. But all in all, it's just not a smart idea. And again, makes no logical sense, comes out of nowhere, has nothing to back it up. And in my eyes, would just weaken the presence that Salem has. And which I really don't want because Salem is one of my favorite villains, like animated villains, period, right now. Up there with the likes of All for One from My Hero Academia, or oh, who would another great example be? Um, I don't. I guess like Katakuri from One Piece, or Doflamingo, or Crocodile. Any of those from One Piece would be great examples of that. Or any of the villains except Unalaq from Legend of Korra, because Unalaq, he's the only one who really didn't do anything really that great. But you get the point. Like, she's one of my favorite animated villains of all time right now, easily. And that would just feel like a weak cop out in comparison to the idea of like making it just that she just on a whim created this Grimm that was that powerful. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to be facing all kinds of even more powerful Grimm now. It builds such just possibility with the Grimm. And it's just, maybe it's also because of my distaste for where Attack on Titan has gone. But it's like, at this point, that would really feel like kind of a rip off of that. And on top of that, it's just like, ever since stuff like that started getting revealed, Attack on Titan started going downhill, and it's just, I don't want that to happen with RWBY, because RWBY's one of my favorite shows of all time. So it's like, I really don't want RWBY to start going downhill by starting to do bullshit like that. And the ideal was fine with Attack on Titan. They just fucked it up. But I'm not going to get into all of that here. The point is, and I'll end it here, that this idea has nothing to back it up. It's a complete crackpot theory with absolutely no evidence to support it. And it's a completely stupid idea. It would just overall hurt the series, the narrative, Salem as a character, and the Grimm as a concept, in my opinion. And I really want this series to be one of those that just continues to be amazing all the way through. Because as I've stated in the past, I believe every volume has been better than the last, and I don't want that to change now. But tell me your thoughts down in the comments below on this entire subject, and for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See you all next time.